Why calcium alone will not protect your bones after 60. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dr. William Chen, and today we're going to talk about something that I believe is one of the most misunderstood topics in modern medicine, especially after the age of 60. Why calcium alone will not protect your bones after 60. Now I know that may sound almost offensive to say, because most of us have been told our entire lives that calcium equals strong bones. Drink your milk. Take your calcium tablet. That's the gospel. It has been drilled into our heads since kindergarten, reinforced by every milk mustache campaign, every school lunch program, every pharmacy shelf stacked floor to ceiling with calcium chews, and every well-meaning relative at the dinner table telling you to finish your glass. And if you've been faithfully taking your 1,000 milligrams of calcium every day, yet your bone density scan is still getting worse, I want you to hear something clearly. It is not your fault. You were given one piece of a much larger puzzle, and the rest of that puzzle is exactly what we're going to walk through today. Now, let me set the stage. This is not a video about demonizing calcium. Calcium still matters. Your skeleton still depends on it. But the assumption that calcium alone is the answer to bone loss after 60 is in many ways like assuming gasoline is the answer to a car problem. Gasoline is necessary, yes. But if your engine, transmission, fuel lines, and spark plugs are all failing, pouring more gasoline into the tank is not going to move the car forward. In fact, the excess may start leaking into places it was never designed to go, and that is its own category of damage. That is exactly what is happening inside the aging skeleton. Your bones are not just calcium banks, they are mineral banks. Yes, they store calcium, but they also store roughly 85% of your body's phosphorus, more than half of your body's magnesium, and meaningful amounts of zinc, copper, strontium, silica, and a protein matrix that gives bone its living structure. And when I say bone is a mineral bank, I mean it the way a checking account is a money bank. It's not just where resources sit, it's where they are constantly moving in and out, being withdrawn and redeployed for critical jobs elsewhere in the body. Deposits happen every time you eat a mineral-rich meal. Withdrawals happen every time your blood chemistry needs to stay balanced for your heart, your nerves, and the enzymes that keep every cell ticking. Most days, in a healthy young skeleton, the deposit and the withdrawal come close to canceling each other out. After 60, that balance often tilts. Here is the part that changed my entire clinical perspective. When levels of any of those co-minerals begin to fall in the blood, your body has a backup mechanism. It pulls those minerals out of the bone to keep the blood levels stable, and the bone very patiently gives them up. That means your blood work can look completely normal, while your skeleton is quietly being depleted. So the standard blood calcium test on your annual physical is, in truth, a very poor indicator of whether your bones are truly healthy. Your skeleton can be losing mineral for years before your blood calcium ever changes at all. That single fact is one of the most important things I wish every patient over 60 understood on the day of their first bone density scan. So if calcium alone is not the answer, what is? The answer is a symphony of at least 5 major players, and we're going to walk through them in the order that matters most. Player number 1, magnesium. In my honest clinical opinion, magnesium is the most underrated mineral in the entire bone health conversation after 60. Why? Because magnesium regulates calcium. Let me say that again. Magnesium regulates calcium. Without enough magnesium, the calcium you consume does not get handled properly. It circulates through the bloodstream without clear direction and can end up depositing in the wrong places. That's one reason some people taking high-dose calcium supplements develop kidney stones. It's one reason others may develop arterial calcification, the stiffening that cardiologists see on imaging every single week. That is not because calcium is inherently toxic. It's because calcium showed up without a guide. Magnesium is the guide. Magnesium is also a cofactor for the enzymes that activate vitamin D. So if you are low in magnesium, you can take 10,000, 20,000, even 50,000 international units of vitamin D3, and your body may still struggle to convert it into the active form that actually supports your bones. In other words, what looks like a vitamin D problem may actually be a magnesium problem in disguise. Think about the typical older adult I see in clinic. She's on a low-dose diuretic for blood pressure. She takes a proton pump inhibitor for reflux. She sleeps poorly. She drinks a couple glasses of wine at night to relax. That pattern alone pushes magnesium out of the body from multiple directions every single day. She is also under more stress than she gives herself credit for, and stress burns through magnesium faster than almost any other mineral I can think of. Each factor alone is manageable. Stacked together, they become a quiet daily drain on the very mineral her skeleton needs most. And yet she walks in asking for more calcium. So if there is one major upgrade I would make first in a bone support program after 60, it is this. Fix magnesium status first, before more calcium, before higher dose vitamin D, before almost anything else. Now, how do you actually fix it? Here's the problem. Most standard blood tests will tell you your magnesium is normal, but less than 1% of total body magnesium lives in the blood. The rest is stored inside your bones, your tissues, and your cells. So a normal serum magnesium does not necessarily mean optimal magnesium status. A red blood cell magnesium or ionized magnesium can be more revealing when this question really matters, but most routine physicals never order it. Start with food. Dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, almonds, cashews, avocados, dark chocolate above 70% cocoa, black beans. These should be in your routine regularly. Then comes supplementation, especially if any of the following apply to you. You take a proton pump inhibitor, you take a diuretic, you drink alcohol regularly, you sleep poorly, or you live under chronic stress. All of those deplete magnesium aggressively. My usual preference is magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate because they tend to be well absorbed, well tolerated, and less likely to loosen the bowels than magnesium citrate. For many adults over 60, a reasonable target is somewhere in the range of 400 to 600 milligrams of elemental magnesium per day, usually split into 2 doses. As always, review this with your physician, especially if you have kidney disease. Player number 2, vitamin D3. Now we come to vitamin D3, and I want to be very precise here, because this is an area filled with confusion. Walk into any health food store, and you will see shelves lined with vitamin D, often in 5,000, 10,000, even 50,000 unit bottles, sold as if more were always better. That assumption is wrong. Vitamin D3 has 2 major jobs in this story. Job number 1. It helps your intestines absorb calcium from food into the bloodstream. Job number 2. It signals to the parathyroid glands, those tiny glands behind your thyroid, that calcium is available in the blood, so they do not need to keep pulling more calcium out of your bones. That second job is critically important. Because when vitamin D3 is low, parathyroid hormone rises, and when parathyroid hormone stays elevated over months and years, it becomes the foreman that keeps raiding your bone bank. It pulls calcium out of your skeleton to keep your blood calcium at the level your nerves and heart require. Your bones become the silent donor. So vitamin D3 is not optional after 60, it is foundational. But this is the critical point. You do not push vitamin D3 to extreme doses blindly, you test. You get a 25-hydroxy vitamin D blood level, and in general you aim for a range around 40 to 60 nanograms per milliliter. That is the range where bone health benefit tends to be strongest. Below 30, parathyroid hormone is often rising and your bones may be paying the price. Push levels too high, and you may start losing the balance you're trying to create. Your ideal dose depends on sun exposure, skin tone, body weight, gut health, and how well you absorb supplements. For many adults over 60, a reasonable starting point is around 4,000 to 5,000 international units daily, then adjusting based on follow-up testing. I have seen some patients stabilize beautifully at 2,000, and I have seen others need closer to 10,000 to reach the same blood level. The dose is personal, which is exactly why testing matters more than guessing. And always pair vitamin D3 with magnesium, because magnesium is what helps activate it. Without that pairing, it's like turning on a lamp without ever putting in the bulb. Player number 3, vitamin K2. Now we come to what I call the missing traffic cop of bone health. Vitamin K2, especially the MK7 form, helps direct calcium to the places you want it to go once it enters the bloodstream. It activates 2 important proteins. One is osteocalcin, which helps pull calcium into bone. The other is matrix GLA protein, which helps keep calcium out of arteries, kidneys, and soft tissues. So when vitamin K2 is low, calcium can end up in the wrong neighborhood. It may harden arteries, it may contribute to kidney stones, it may stiffen soft tissue. And the bones, the place you actually wanted that calcium to go, can remain undersupplied. That's why vitamin K2, in my view, is non-negotiable after 60. For general bone support, a common starting range is 100 to 200 micrograms of MK7 daily. In more advanced cases, some clinicians use higher doses under supervision. The MK7 form has a longer half-life than MK4, which is one reason it has become the form most often chosen for daily supplementation. One important caution: because vitamin K2 interacts with clotting pathways, anyone taking warfarin or another vitamin K antagonist needs to coordinate carefully with the prescribing physician before adding it. If you are not on a blood thinner of that kind, MK7 is generally considered very safe and is often paired with vitamin D3 in well-designed formulations. And that pairing makes sense. Vitamin D helps absorb calcium, vitamin K2 helps direct it. Player number 4, protein. This is the one that surprises people. We've been conditioned to think of bones as minerals, but bone is also built on a protein scaffold, especially collagen. That protein matrix forms a large part of bone's structure. If that matrix becomes thin, weak, or brittle, the minerals have nothing strong to anchor to. So bone is not just about density. Bone is also about quality. That is one reason a person can have a bone density scan that doesn't look terrible and still suffer a fracture from a relatively minor fall. The mineral count may look acceptable on paper, but if the collagen scaffolding underneath is frayed, the whole structure can give way under modest force. This is one of the quietest, most overlooked contributors to fragility fracture in older adults, and it is one that no DEXA number will tell you directly. Adequate protein intake supports that collagen scaffold. It gives osteoblasts, the bone-building cells, the amino acids they need to do their job. For many older adults, a reasonable target is around 1.0 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Where do you get it? Eggs, fish, poultry, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, lean red meat in moderation, bone broth, and if needed, a clean whey or collagen peptide supplement. One more important point: spread your protein across the day. Don't starve your body of protein at breakfast and lunch, then dump everything into dinner. Bone-building cells do better with a steady stream of amino acids, the way a bricklayer lays more bricks when the mortar keeps arriving evenly, rather than in one flood at the end of the shift. And here is a useful practical tip. If you take calcium supplements or collagen supplements, try not to take them in giant handfuls alongside your biggest protein-rich meal. A little separation, 30 to 60 minutes, may improve absorption and utilization because they are competing, in a sense, for some of the same digestive traffic. Player number 5, weight-bearing and resistance exercise. Now we arrive at the part where many people push back at first, because this is the part that requires effort. Your skeleton is one of the most responsive tissues in your body. It remodels continuously based on the demands placed on it. When you load a bone through walking, climbing stairs, hiking, or lifting weights, you send a signal to your osteoblasts to lay down new collagen and new mineral exactly where the stress is occurring. When you don't load your bones, you send the opposite message. This tissue is not needed. And over time, the body responds accordingly. After 60, that loading signal matters more, not less. Bone still responds, bone still adapts, bone can still become stronger when it is given the right reason to do so. The literature on progressive resistance training in older adults is clear on this point. Measurable improvements in both density and structural quality are achievable well into the 8th decade of life. A realistic bone-building program for many adults over 60 looks like this: 3 to 5 days per week of weight-bearing movement, walking, hiking, dancing, climbing stairs, low-impact aerobics, plus 2 to 3 days per week of structured resistance training. That may include chair squats, light deadlifts, rows, step-ups, overhead press, or resistance band work. More progressive than most people think, safer than most people fear, if it's introduced gradually and supervised appropriately. And no, swimming and cycling alone, while excellent for cardiovascular fitness, do not load the skeleton the same way. They are wonderful forms of movement, but they are not enough by themselves for bone protection. They need to be paired with true weight-bearing work. Why calcium alone fails. Now let me put all 5 players together. Imagine a 65-year-old woman comes into my clinic with a new diagnosis of osteopenia in the hip. Her physician tells her to take 1200 milligrams of calcium a day and to walk more. She does both, faithfully. She increases her calcium intake. Her blood calcium remains normal, but without magnesium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2 fully in place, that calcium has no clear destination. Some of it may reach the bones. Some of it may circulate without purpose. Some of it may deposit in arteries. Some of it may be excreted through the kidneys. Meanwhile, if vitamin D3 is low, parathyroid hormone stays elevated and keeps pulling calcium out of bone. If protein intake is poor, the collagen framework stays weak. If resistance training is missing, osteoblasts never receive a strong signal to build. The result? Her next bone density scan, 2 years later, shows further decline, despite her discipline and good intentions. She is then told she may need a prescription medication. Not because she has been given a fuller picture, but because the only other explanation anyone offered her was more calcium, and that has already failed her. Nobody in that entire arc ever asked about her magnesium. Nobody measured her vitamin D. Nobody discussed her protein intake. Nobody mentioned resistance training. Nobody reviewed the proton pump inhibitor she had been taking for 9 years for reflux. And this is where the cycle deepens. Because the medication may slow bone breakdown, but it still does not replace magnesium, vitamin D3, vitamin K2, protein or mechanical loading. It does not provide the raw materials. It does not rebuild the foundation. That, in my view, is one of the biggest education gaps in adult bone health today. What about prescription medications? This is an important question, because many of you are already on these medications, or you may be offered them soon. The bisphosphonates, Fosamax, Actonel, Reclast and others, primarily work by slowing the cells that break down bone. They are not building new nutritional infrastructure. They are not adding magnesium. They are not adding K2. They are not improving protein intake. They are not telling your parathyroid hormone to calm down. They are slowing one side of the equation. For people at very high fracture risk, that can absolutely be appropriate, but they are not the true foundation. At best, they are a temporary chemical support while you strengthen the biological foundation underneath. Used on a foundation starved of raw materials, they may produce reassuring scan numbers without necessarily delivering the structural quality those numbers imply. Other medications, such as denosumab and romosozumab, act through different mechanisms and can produce meaningful gains in bone density. But again, they are adjusting the biology of bone turnover. They are not replacing the raw material symphony that healthy bone depends on. Should you throw out your calcium supplements? No. Calcium still matters, but you need to reassess 3 things. First, the form. Most over-the-counter calcium supplements use calcium carbonate. It's cheap, but it's also harder to absorb, especially as stomach acid declines with age. Calcium citrate is generally better absorbed in older adults and is often the smarter choice. Second, the dose. Your body usually absorbs calcium most efficiently in doses of around 500 milligrams or less at one time. So if your target is 1200 milligrams per day, splitting it into 2 or 3 smaller doses makes far more sense than taking one giant dose. You are not feeding your bones a single feast. You are giving them small regular deliveries they can actually use. Third, the source. Get as much calcium as possible from food. Yogurt, kefir, sardines with bones, soft cheeses, fortified plant milks, leafy greens. Food-based calcium comes packaged with other supportive nutrients. Supplements should be the backup, not the foundation. The medications and habits that quietly damage bone. This is something many physicians still don't emphasize enough. Proton pump inhibitors, omeprazole, pantoprazole, esomeprazole, reduce stomach acid. And without adequate stomach acid, you may struggle to absorb calcium, magnesium, zinc, and other minerals properly. Glucocorticoids, like prednisone, directly suppress bone-building cells and can accelerate bone loss dramatically. SSRIs, the common antidepressants, also appear to have modest but real long-term effects on bone density in some patients. And then there is chronic stress. Chronically elevated cortisol suppresses osteoblast activity, interferes with sleep, increases inflammation, and pushes the body into a long-term anti-building state. That means walking, better sleep, stress reduction, social connection, and time outdoors are not just nice lifestyle habits. They are part of bone protection. The most empowering truth. Now let me close the loop with what I believe is the most empowering message in this entire conversation. Bone loss after 60 is not automatically inevitable. Yes, aging changes the body. But the standard story, that bones simply thin with age and there is nothing meaningful you can do about it, is incomplete. What we often see instead is the combined effect of multiple deficits happening at once. Too little magnesium, too little vitamin D, too little vitamin K2, too little protein, too little resistance training, too much sedentary time, too much stress, and too much calcium taken in isolation. When you correct those factors, bones can stabilize. And in many people, they can improve. Because bone is living tissue, it is dynamic, it is responsive, it is remodeling every day of your life. Your osteoblasts are still listening, you just have to give them the right instructions. The protocol I share with patients. So here is the framework I often share with my patients, and now with you. Step 1. Get a baseline 25-hydroxyvitamin D blood level, and aim for a range of roughly 40 to 60 nanograms per milliliter, with your physician's guidance. Step 2. Discuss magnesium, ideally glycinate or malate, in the range of 400 to 600 milligrams of elemental magnesium daily, split into 2 doses. Step 3. Consider vitamin K2 as MK7, usually 100 to 200 micrograms daily, taken alongside vitamin D3 and a meal-containing fat. Step 4. Reassess calcium, prefer food first. If supplementing, use calcium citrate, and divide the dose across the day in amounts of 500 milligrams or less. Step 5. Aim for 1.0 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, spread across meals. Step 6. Begin a structured program of weight-bearing and resistance exercise, appropriate to your fitness level and bone status. Step 7. Review all of your current medications with your physician specifically through the lens of bone health. Step 8. Walk daily, briskly if you can, and outdoors whenever possible. Step 9. Protect your sleep. Deep sleep supports hormone signaling, tissue repair, and bone remodeling. Step 10. Manage your stress. Breath work, nature, movement, community, quiet. Your bones feel your stress chemistry more than most people realize. Give them peace. Final thoughts. And one final reminder. Nothing in this video is a substitute for your own physician's guidance, especially if you already have osteoporosis, a history of fracture, kidney disease, or you're taking medications that affect bone metabolism. Use this video as a starting point for a deeper, more informed conversation with your care team. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope this gave you a fuller and more accurate picture of what your bones actually need after 60, and why the simple advice to just take more calcium, while well-intentioned, has left so many people frustrated. The good news is that the picture is broader than we were told. And the broader the picture, the more there is to work with. Until next time, take care of your bones, take care of your sleep, take care of your stress, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Dr. William Chen, wishing you strength, mobility, and many healthy years ahead.